မင်္ဂလာပါခင်ဗျာ
Yeah.
Thank you for answering the Burmese Canadian YouTube page. We are giving information to Burmese people as well as Myanmar citizens who want to come to Canada. First of all, I would like to ask you one question. Where do you live currently? And can you introduce a little bit about yourself?
I was born in the same country as yours.
Yes.
And I've been living in Sweden since 2009. And prior to that, I was living in Canada from 1994 to 2009.
Can you introduce a bit about your profession too?
I'm an electrical engineer by profession, and I work as a research and development engineer. And currently, I work at a Swiss-Swedish company that specializes in building large power conversion systems and energy storage systems for the electric power grid.
Okay.
I mean, these systems are used as a supplement to the renewable energy system. See, you can generate in a traditional power plant, you can generate power all the time. You have, as long as you have fuel, you can keep generating power. But in wind and solar, the sun doesn't shine all the time, the wind doesn't blow all the time. So for the duration that the sun doesn't shine or the wind doesn't blow, you need to take some power out from the energy storage system. And when you have excess power, you can put that power back into the storage system.
Okay.
So my work is related to that area.
Okay. So when did you move to Canada? And then how is your day in Canada? Would you like to explain?
I moved to Canada from Singapore in 1994. And I spent a couple of months, the first couple of months, working remotely for my former employer in Singapore so I get paid while living and working in Canada for my employer back in Singapore. Then after that, I start going back to school, University of British Columbia to be precise, for my undergrad degree in electrical engineering. And then during my school days, I did a couple of internships within British Columbia for a couple of companies.
အခုနားထောင်နေတာကတော့ Burmese Canadian YouTube page ဖြစ်ပါတယ်။ Canada နိုင်ငံနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့စိတ်ဝင်စားတယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့ YouTube ကို like and subscribe လုပ်ထားပေးပါ
How long did you stay in Canada before you moved to Sweden?
Canada for almost 15 years.
Oh.
Yeah. So as I said, I went to UBC. I did my degree. And then when I graduated, I worked for a local electric company from 1999 to 2001. And then in 2001, I went back to graduate school. I went back to school for graduate school, so to speak. Yeah. And I started working again in 2006 for a consulting company. And I did that until 2009 when I moved to Sweden. My bachelor's degree from UBC.
Okay.
And I got my master's and doctorate from the University of Toronto.
University of Toronto.
Yes.
So would you like to explain me about the difference between Toronto and Vancouver?
You mean the city or the university?
University, yes.
Okay. Well, both of them are top-rated universities in Canada. And of course, University of Toronto is a lot older, and it is kind of like located in downtown Toronto. So whereas UBC, as you know, it's located right outside the city on its own endowment land. And so the environment is very different. But in terms of the quality of teaching and whatnot, they are pretty much the same, I would say.
Oh, okay.
Why did I move to Sweden? Well, because I spent 6 years in graduate school, almost 6 years, specializing in one particular area of studies. And then when I graduated, I couldn't find a job in that area of specialization in Canada. So I don't want my research and my study to be wasted. So that's why I moved to Europe, where you can find several companies. There are 3 companies that specialize in this area, and I work for one of them.
All right.
Yeah.
Would you like to compare how is your life in Canada and how is life in Sweden, in Europe? What do you feel any differences?
There is a huge difference. Life in Canada is, I feel that I'm part of the society, and I study, I work, and then I'm involved in many other activities, such as the IEEE. It's a professional body in the United States and Canada. Actually, it's worldwide. And then, I serve in the local chapter of that professional body. So my life is not just, working or going to school. It has a lot more stuff in my life in Canada. Whereas in Europe, I'm nothing but a guest here, just a guest worker. So what I do here is to work. This is not my place.
So you feel like home more in Canada?
Yes, of course.
Than in Sweden?
And I mean, definitely. I mean, in Canada, after all, I'm still Asian. I like Asian food. And in Toronto or Vancouver, if you want Asian food, you can go to Chinatown, you can go to Koreatown, you can go to Vietnamese shops, all kinds of stuff. And you have a lot of fellow Asians around you to socialize with. And you don't have that here.
But how is the opportunity in Europe?
We have a shortage of qualified people who can work in the kind of jobs that I'm working in. And that's why we have to cast our search worldwide. We hire worldwide from any corner of the world. Anybody, regardless of nationality, as long as he or she has the right level of education and the right experience, we would hire such people.
Okay.
So currently we have a number of people from China, a number of people from India that I work with.
I would say your profession is one of a kind. So how is your job prospect? How is your professional job prospect in Canada?
Yeah, I've over specialized a bit, and I worked in a niche area. So, of course, the kind of work that I've been doing did not quite exist in Canada, but things are changing. Utilities need consultants who understand energy storage, who understand power quality support, for example. Things that the kind of needs that they didn't have before. Now they begin to face a new environment. You have a lot of renewables, and you have to scale down, especially fossil fuel power stations, traditional power stations that burn fossil fuels, such as gas, coal, or whatever it is. So though they have to be replaced with renewable power plants. And as such, these utilities, regardless wherever they are, they face new challenges. And of course, the need for my kind of expertise is evolving in a number of places outside of Europe.
Do you feel any difficulties, or do you think any barrier for the highly specialized subjects in Canada?
Getting a job, just
getting a
any
job.
job, is not a problem. I could easily have gotten a job as a utility engineer in Canada too, but that job would be very boring for me.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have a couple of classmates who ended up doing just that.
Okay.
And when I went back to Canada a couple of years ago, I talked to them, and they told me, yeah, you're so lucky. We are just working for the sake of earning money. nothing more than that.
Yeah. So now you are following your dream in Europe, right?
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah, but I know that I have to go. I have to go home one day.
Okay, just
Yeah.
you're following the like.
Right. Yeah.
dream
So
job,
I think
right?
things should be balanced. I mean, like say, whatever that I have studied, whatever that I've researched and specialized should not be wasted. But then, I shouldn't be giving up everything in life just for the sake of it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Would you like to give some suggestions to those who want to study in your specialized?
Right. Okay. If one wants to work in this area at the operation maintenance level, then they can go to a trade school like BCIT in Vancouver, for example, or undergrad school at UBC, undergrad engineering, either at Simon Fraser or UBC, get your bachelor's degree in engineering, and that would be just good enough. But if you want to work for a manufacturer of these systems and devices, especially if you want to get into developing new products, then you should have at least a master's degree, or even better, a doctorate in the area.
What kind of talent or what kind of preparation should someone do?
I think if you want to be in my shoes and if you want to do the job effectively, you should be pretty good at math, physics, because that's the foundation of engineering science. And at the same time, you shouldn't be afraid of working out in a substation or in a power plant, which is a very noisy and dirty environment. And then, when you are in the research lab, you work with people who are more or less quite educated and maybe, internationally exposed people. People come from other countries. So that's the work environment. So when I work in the lab, all my colleagues, most of them have at least a master's degree, if not a PhD. Okay. And then they come from various parts of Europe, China, India, some from Canada. So this is an international crowd and well educated. So you should be able to work with such people. And on the other hand, when you go to a power plant or a substation, you have to work with really local people who may not have international exposure and who may look at you, okay, this guy with yellow skin and black hair, perhaps, and yet you still have to work with them. So you should be able to, you should have the soft skills to be able to work with, a diverse group of people.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing your experience. So my next question is brief about the differences between Canada and Sweden.
Right. Yes. So I'll use the script because I've written quite a lot. In terms of weather, of course, both of them are cold countries. Like, it can be quite cold in the winter. The summer can be like, relatively warm and beautiful, quite pleasant. But the main difference is that here in Canada, most people live within, let's say, 100 kilometers from the US border. I'm sure you know about that.
Yeah.
Right. So pretty far south. So it might be cold, but it doesn't get that dark in the winter. Whereas in Sweden, the people there are a lot of people living in, say, not just in southern Sweden, but like, in central Sweden, northern Sweden, we have a lot of people living all over the place. So if you go to northern Sweden in winter time, starting from around late November until February, you don't see any sunlight at all. There's no day, it's night all the time. And you have that in Canada only in the far north, where there are hardly anybody. Yeah. So in terms of weather, that's what it is like. And in terms of housing, the people here in Sweden are more or less, they're not that individualistic. They are well, not family oriented, but they are a bit of a collectivist. So you see a lot of people living in housing co-ops, sharing the entire building, sharing a common laundry room, for example, with each family living in one unit. And of course, they own the unit, but they don't own anything outside of the unit. Yeah. And then even the electricity bill, for example, in some cases, you don't get an individualized electricity bill. There's one bill for the whole building, and then you just divide by the number of people living, the number of households living in the building, and that's how much you pay. And of course, that might not work very well in some parts of Canada, and definitely not in the United States.
What about the healthcare system?
Healthcare, okay. The healthcare system is, well, I would say socialism. Nothing, I don't know what else to call it, because, it's a completely nationalized sector, so to speak, and almost all doctors work for the government. And I have never seen a private clinic since I came here. So, and of course, healthcare is, well, it's heavily subsidized, and you have to pay a user fee when you go there. But then, if you get sick often, then, you have to pay less as things progress. It's like, for example, let's say it costs you $20 per visit, for example, as, the user fee. And if you get sick once a year, then your out-of-pocket cost of healthcare is $20, right? But if you're somebody who has to visit the doctor 2-3 times a month, then that's when the subsidies kick in. So you pay $20 every time up to the 10th time. So after you have paid, let's say $200, then it's completely free. So there is a cap to how much you pay per year. Per calendar year.
So there's a quite similarity between Canada and Sweden in healthcare, and also there's a differences.
Well, there are similarities and differences, because in Canada, healthcare is affordable in both places. But in Canada, you have private clinics, doctors in private practice, and who are willing to treat you. You call them, and then it's their interest to see you. And then, of course, they cannot charge you money, but they would charge the government, right? That's how it works in Canada. But here, a doctor, it doesn't matter how many patients he sees, he gets the same salary. So, you normally go to something like a polyclinic, and there are a bunch of nurses. And then if you want to make an appointment, you have to talk to the nurse, and the nurse will question you left and right before she would allow you to see a doctor.
Okay.
So there is some, these nurses act as gatekeepers, so to speak.
So what about the same general economy between the Canada and the Sweden?
Well, I think there is a difference. Sweden is the economy of Sweden is an export-oriented economy. So it's a small country in Europe, surrounded by much larger countries like France, UK, Germany, Poland, so on and so forth. But then here, despite its small size, it's quite an industrial powerhouse. So there are a lot of companies here trying to make things, either hardware or software or systems or whatever, and sell those to foreign customers. And and that's the main, that's a sizable chunk of the economy. Whereas in Canada and the United States, the economy is based a lot on internal consumption. And here you don't see internal consumption that much. I'll say in my city, it's a small city, they are only about 100,000 people. And most restaurants are deserted in the evening. You don't see people eating out that much.
Oh.
And these restaurants, they rely on the lunchtime crowd to survive, right? Volvo is a famous brand, and it's based in Sweden, but of course now it's owned by a Chinese holding company. But nevertheless, it's based in Sweden, and there was also another car company, and the brand was Saab, and that was also quite a well-known international brand.
Yeah, of course, IKEA too, the world well-known.
Yeah, IKEA, H&M, for example. So you have a lot of internationally well-known companies that started out here in Sweden.
In your subject, a specialized subject is the Brexit. The Brexit, the affect Europe, and what about your subject too? Is this something?
My field Brexit. No, it doesn't have any effect on us actually, because most of our customers are either in the United States or in continental Europe.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and of course, and also in the Middle East, primarily Saudi Arabia.
Okay. So, as my final questions, do you have anything suggestions who want to come to Europe, come to Canada, or for studying and for migration, anything?
I would say for Asian people of Asian origin living in Canada, my message to them is that don't come here unless you are chasing a dream or something else.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay.
Say, I know a couple of Canadians living here, and some of them are here, just like me, to work in a particular field. And for some other people, it's simply because they are married to Swedish women.
I see.
That's the only reason why they are here.
Oh, I see. အခုလိုနားထောင်ပေးတာကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်ခင်ဗျာကျွန်တော်တို့ Burmese Canadian page က immigration lawyer immigration consultant အလုပ်ကိုင် agency မဟုတ်ပါဘူးကနေဒါနိုင်ငံမှာ immigration နဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးအဖို့ခယူပြီးတော့အကြံဉာဏ်ပေးခြင်းနဲ့ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဆိုရစီမှာတရားဝင် register လုပ်ရပါတယ်အဲ့လိုမှမဟုတ်ရင်တရားမဝင်ပါဘူးကျွန်တော်တို့ကတော့ဒါတကယ်ရင်းတွေကစိတ်ဝင်စားနဲ့မေးမြန်းလာကြတဲ့အတွက် information တက်ပေးခြင်းစာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ကျွန်တော်တို့ကဥပဒေနဲ့ပတ်သက်တဲ့အကြံဉာဏ်ပေးခြင်း immigration နဲ့ပတ်သက်တဲ့အကြံဉာဏ်ပေးခြင်းမရှိပါဘူးခင်ဗျာ
အခုနားထောင်နေတာကတော့ Burmese Canadian YouTube page ဖြစ်ပါတယ်။ကနေဒါနိုင်ငံနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့စိတ်ဝင်စားတယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့ YouTube ကို like and subscribe လုပ်ထားပေးပါ